All right, so 1 week after, a bunch of people wrote off Marvin Harrison Jr. as a bust after one game, in which his counting stats weren't that great, but if you watched any film, you saw that he actually did get open at times. Admittedly, not as much as you would hope for a fourth overall prospect, but isn't it crazy to believe that after one game, somebody could perform better? I know, let's not get carried away here. All right, so our legendary prospect Marvin Harrison Jr. is 6'3", 205 pounds, with 31-inch arms. He was selected fourth overall by the Arizona Cardinals out of The Ohio State University. Now, I'm not sure exactly where Player Profiler got their 40-yard dash for MHJ. He didn't officially run one at the Combine. He may have done private ones for teams, but nonetheless, they give him a 4.46, which is 78th percentile. But because he's 6'3", 205 pounds, with a 4.46, at least according to them, that gives him a 106.5 speed score, which is 87th percentile. That is height and weight adjusted speed. When we look below, in week one, like I said earlier, it was a bit of a lackluster performance from a counting stats perspective. However, we did like the 90% snap share. And yeah, he finished with 3 targets with 1 reception for 4 yards. But like I was telling everybody, it's one game. Give the guy more than one game. And so, what did he do? Well, this week he had 8 targets, so more than twice as many. 4 receptions, 4 times as many, and a lot more yards with 130 and 2 touchdowns as opposed to none. That's more like it. Like I said after week one performances are not necessarily indicative of what we can expect throughout the entirety of the season. Teams have had months to game plan against the teams in which they're going to face off against in week one. And so you're not going to have the same amount of preparation time for other teams. And so, while in week one, for instance, Trey McBride had 9 targets, this week he had 6. And while in week one, MHJ only had 3, this week he had 8. I think that what we saw in week 2 here with the target distribution, primarily with MHJ and McBride, is a little bit more indicative of what we're going to see throughout the entirety of the season here. So when we look at their stats, MHJ had 4 for 130 and 2 on 8 targets. Trey McBride was the second leading receiver by a large margin with 6 receptions and 67 yards on 6 targets, so he was really efficient. Then you had the likes of Michael Wilson, Elijah Higgins, Greg Dortch, and then the running backs Benson and Connor. When we look at the snap shares, so MHJ had a 70% snap share, Trey McBride had 83%, Michael Wilson 68%, Elijah Higgins 54%, Greg Dortch 35%, Trey Benson 33%, and James Conner 62%. Now, you'll notice that the snap shares for MHJ and McBride are lower than they were in week 1 against Buffalo. Well, the Cardinals were blowing out the Rams, so a lot of the players that would regularly be playing, about 90% of the snaps, give or take, didn't need to play that many. That's why, for instance, James Conner only had a 62% snap share to Trey Benson's 33%. Now, what's really important to look at is the target share. MHJ had a 38.10% target share. Is it going to usually be 38%? Maybe not quite that high, but before the season started, I projected right around 30%, and so I think 30 to 32 is probably going to be what we see as the season works itself out. And Trey McBride with a 28.57%, it'll probably be around 25 to 28%, so I think that's relatively close to what we'll see in general. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch tying for third in targets is probably also what we're going to see. And then we'll probably see around an 8% target share in general for all running backs in this offense. And so I think that this is what we're going to see for the rest of the season in general. Here we have Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first NFL touchdown. You'll notice the toe tap grab at the back of the end zone here. He pins the ball against his body. It's a nice display of, first of all, his contested catch ability, as well as his body control and awareness. It's really magnificent. We're going to see a lot of this in the future from him and Kyler Murray. All right, so Marvin Harrison Jr. is at the top of your screen here. It's a PA boot. He's running an over out here. Kyler Murray's rolling towards the right. He notices that Marvin Harrison Jr. is open, but why is he open? Well, he notices that the safety is behind him, and he notices also that Kyler Murray is rolling to the right. So he adjusts his over route upwards to get a better angle and find a hole in the zone. And the safety is no match for him. And so it's a free touchdown. Now, he does almost get caught, but we don't really care in fantasy football. A touchdown's a touchdown. This is a magnificent display of his creative backyard ability. And what I mean by that is it's off-script playmaking. And both he and Kyler Murray specialize in said playmaking. And so that's part of what is going to make them such a beautiful fit together for us in fantasy football, and if you're a Cardinals fan, in real life football. All right, if you're still here and you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. It lets me know that you want to see more content like this in the future. I plan on making film breakdowns of essentially any player that's a rookie, breakout candidate, or somebody that just has an extraordinary performance from week to week. And yeah, if you want to see more content like this, feel free to like and subscribe. All right, so here Marvin Harrison Jr. is running a fade route. He starts with a slide release to get the defender to bite on what he might think could be a slant route. That gives him the back shoulder for Kyler Murray to hit there. What we see here is a work of art. First of all, his slide release, the footwork on that is absolutely elite. The precision with the route, having just enough room for Kyler Murray to fit that ball in there, he knows exactly what he's doing. Then the body control to spin around while the ball is coming to him. Then the contested catch ability when the ball gets there and finishing through contact. And then the sideline awareness to know where he is. Like I said, that is a work of art. Now, people say this all the time, but you can really tell that he was raised by an NFL wide receiver. It is almost unheard of for wide receiver prospects to already be this technically refined as rookies in their second game. This guy is going to be an all-pro for many, many years to come. All right, so here we have more off-script playmaking by MHJ and Kyler. So originally, MHJ is coming back to the ball because he sees that Kyler is scrambling towards the left and that he's under pressure. But then he can feel the defender closing in on him, so he turns it on upfield and has really a walk-in touchdown if Kyler wasn't being pressured and scrambling and fading left. Nonetheless, Kyler does have enough arm to get the ball to MHJ, and so it's a chunk gain, but it could have been a really long touchdown. But nonetheless, this is more off-script playmaking between the two of them, and we're going to see this for many, many years to come. All right, so here I am showing you an incompletion, but it's still a work of art. They're running a fade route and trying to hit a back shoulder just like before the clip a couple plays ago. And so, just like before, he hits the defender with a slide release. That jab gets him to think that it's going to be a slant route before he jumps right back outside for the back shoulder. So the release works because he gets the exact look that he wants. And Kyler Murray, who knows if Kyler was just a little bit high or if MHJ should have been a little bit more towards the corner of the end zone. Nonetheless, it was that close from being a third touchdown between the two of them. And it's just another display of his remarkable release package, as well as his route running. And it was almost a beautiful display of his body control and one-handed grab ability. All right, so it took Marvin Harrison Jr. 2 weeks to show us a lead upside. From his remarkable release packages, his silky smooth route running, his really high IQ spatial awareness, the ability to contort his body, his contested catch ability, and his generally decent speed, this guy is the prototypical classic X wide receiver. He is going to be by himself on the boundary a good amount of the time and doesn't need anybody else to help him win his routes. His off-script playmaking ability is going to fit seamlessly with Kyler Murray's off-script playmaking ability, and so we can expect to see plays just like these basically every week for the entirety of the time in which they play together. So yeah, it turns out what many consider to be the best wide receiver prospect since potentially Calvin Johnson, in some people's eyes at least, wasn't a bust after week 1. If you like what you've seen here, please feel free to like and subscribe. It lets me know that you want to see more content like this. Thank you, and have a good day.